It's a pleasure to be here at the second Lahore Light Fest, and I'm really delighted that I've been asked to speak and interview with Tahira Sayyed, who needs no introduction. Tahira Sayyed is a household name in Pakistan. We all grew up hearing her, and particularly on Pakistan television when there was only one channel in Pakistan. And I must add that other than her beautiful singing and a great personality, she's also a timeless beauty, because she remains unchanged after all these years while I'm growing older and fatter. So, but anyway, it's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this session is a really complex one, because there is so much to weave into the history and particularly the cultural history of Lahore. The shrine of Data Darbar, or the Sufi saint who's buried there, known as Ali Usman Al-Hajweri, right, has been there for nearly 1,000 years, and has defined Lahore's cultural and social and spiritual identity. There's no Lahorite who will not be either unfamiliar with Data Sahab, or not a devotee, or has not found a place in his or her life through the course of our collective existence. Data Darbar is also a fulcrum for kind of the pluralistic heritage of Pakistan, where Muslims and non-Muslims, they go alike to that shrine, and it's a space that has functioned for almost 900 years or so as that kind of spiritual sort of centerpiece of the great city Lahore. And sadly, it was bombed in 2010 by the Taliban. And there's much more security now, but still Lahoris are very resilient, and so is the shrine, and it continues to inspire everyone. There's a rich musical tradition also associated with Sufis in the subcontinent, in particular Qawwali and Kafi, the two genres that have emerged largely out of the Sufi practice and the musical traditions that they supported. Most of the Sufis were also poets. Data Sahab himself, Usman Al-Hajweri, was not a poet per se, but he wrote the most cited and important document on Sufism, known as Kashful Majub, or the revealing of the hidden, which is basically a kind of a manual on the various stages of attaining Sufi tariqah and attaining spiritual sort of enlightenment. And in that, he has mentioned the importance of sama, that is the whole musical tradition, which also defines Qawwali, where you get into a trance and connect with your creator through the musical genre. And therefore, although the art Qawwali as a music form originated and was developed at Amir Khusro's shrine in Delhi in the 12th and 13th century onwards, but the tradition of sama did exist before that in Central Asia, and Data Darbar has been a kind of legatee of that whole rich history. So, Tahira, I would like to ask you your own relationship with Lahore and the shrine itself and your memories.
Lahore has always been very special to me. I was born there, went to school, college, university, everything in Lahore. And I've lived there all my life, practically. And of course, Data Sahab is one of the symbols of Lahore. And we have people coming from all over the world who just want to go and visit the shrine. It is an extremely integral and important part of Lahoris and Lahori culture. I mean, the fairs and festivals that are held over there are renowned. People come from all over the world. There are discussions. They have, of course, Qawwali. And the Qawwali is, in a very sort of practical way, introduction to the new Qawwals as well. So what happens is that the new Qawwals start the evening on the Urs. And the biggest qawwal of the evening is the last one.
That's right.
And that is where Nusrat Fateh used to be, like he was the ultimate at the end. So it has provided a setting for qawwals and spiritual singers. And it has also brought culture of intellectual discussion, education, etiquette. It has provided a lot of tradition to Lahore, and I'm sure the whole of Punjab. And then, of course, we must not forget that so many later Sufis came and settled there.
That's right.
Who were inspired by Data Sahab and who settled in or around Lahore. And for that reason, Lahore has always had a very strong spiritual connection with shrines, with Sufism, and that culture is still thriving by the grace of God. So that is my
Wonderful.
connection.
Yeah, and also I think you mentioned earlier that every qawwal, it is mandatory for him to perform.
Absolutely.
There, you know,
Yes.
in the whole evolution of their career and their musical
Yes,
practice.
and they gradually move up.
They move up. Yeah,
Mhm.
and just to add that even the bigger sort of names well known in the Indian subcontinent, Sufis like Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti, who's buried in Ajmer, also spent
Yes.
40 days at
Yes.
Data's Darbar.
Chilla.
Yeah, the 40 days rigorous exercise to attain a kind of spiritual cleansing. And even outside Lahore, as Taira mentioned, I mean, Darbar has inspired hundreds, if not thousands, of other
Absolutely.
Sufi followers.
Absolutely.
So, in the particular, you were talking about Qawwali, and there's another very peculiar genre which is very popular as well, Kafi.
Kafi.
So, could
Ji.
please tell us about that?
Kafi is actually the genre of poetry that was written by Sufi saints. And most of the Kafis are, of course, in love of the beloved, who may be your master or God or just a person. And they have been promoting Sufi ideas and thoughts through that. And a Kafi is particularly written to be sung.
That's right.
And in many cases, the Sufis would make annotations on the sides as to which rag and which rhythm it should be performed with. And therefore, Kafi has always been a spiritual song, let's say. Of course, there's a lot of imagery and there is a lot of symbolism in that. And it's always in the simplest romantic form of a lover crying for his beloved, or a lover desirous of meeting his beloved. So it's always been cloaked in that, but actually it is, of course, all spiritual. And there is ishq Hakiki and ishq Majazi, which you know, of course, real love and love of
divine
God,
love.
divine love and material love. So those have been actually very vague. There's no differentiation in the two in the Kafi, and it could be taken either way.
Right.
But that is basically what a Kafi is. And Kafi became such a popular form of music that Rag actually came into being, also called Kafi.
Okay.
So now the poetry is called Kafi, as well as the Rag is called Kafi. And our very famous Nazakat Ali, Salamat Ali made it into a classical Rag, and they performed it in a classical way. And now, of course, Kafi is being sung all over. And as we talked about, Coke Studio has brought a lot of
Sufi music,
elements
yeah.
into it. And
What do you think about that? I mean, that this idea and this whole heritage is continuing in the thriving pop scene.
Raza, I think it's a wonderful idea, because otherwise all these forms of music would be lost if it was not made palatable to the younger generation. I mean, I could probably appreciate the true Kafi, but I don't think any youngster would. And therefore, adding music to it or drums to it, by all means, if it becomes popular or it becomes known. I think Bulle Shah was not really known to people or youngsters until it came in a popular form.
Yeah.
So yes, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and what is your reaction to, because obviously you are a intermediate generation from your esteemed mother, Malka Phukraj, who was a great icon of singing in the Indian subcontinent, and our generation and the younger sort of generation. And how do you see the music scene flourishing?
Well, I've always tried to keep an open mind, and I have tried very hard to not be biased in either way. And as I said, as a child, I could never really understand classical music, and we used to have evenings of classical music going on for hours, and I would just not be able to go through that. It was torture for me. And now I understand that youngsters cannot absorb so much classical music as is expected. Therefore, classical music is actually dying out in Pakistan. India, of course, still has it. But we, for one, do not have the patience or the ability to concentrate for that long, because now we are used to fast forwarding and rewinding, so we are not willing to sit and listen to hours of classical music. So I would say to encapsulate it into a briefer form and therefore make it an easier task, it's fine. I mean, I'm happy with it. But of course, there has to be a deeper understanding of music. Now, since I must go back a long time. When I started appearing on TV, I was 14 years old. And at that time, there was no recording. It was live. So when the camera was on me, people were watching it at home. So there was no space, no place to make a mistake. And it was the most frightening experience of my life when I appeared the first time. And I actually did not have any idea that this was being telecast live. Thank God. So when subsequently, of course, I understood. And then we had the musicians on one side, I had the mic here, and I was singing, and it was being telecast. Then, of course, the huge revolution came when they started recording them. So I said, oh my God, this is wonderful. Now I can make a mistake and start all over again. That stage went on. Then, of course, it came to the stage of editing. And that was incredible. I mean, you sang something and you didn't like it, and they took a scissor, they cut it, they spliced it, they put it together, and they said, now it's good. So, wonderful. Now, the stage of singing is such that any bathroom singer can get up and make a CD or a cassette. It is the easiest thing in the world. And I must say that when I have recorded songs in that fashion, which is maybe breaking up a word in 3 different parts and then putting it together, which is now what we do, there is no soul to that song. So I feel all the soul of present day music is edited once you start putting together pieces. And the recordings that I do now are so different to the ones that I did in those good old days when there was no editing. And I had to know the whole song, and I had to give feeling to it, and I gave feeling to it in one go.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is missing now.
Okay.
And we are gradually, as technology is getting better, we are missing out on the soul.
That's true, but you had to go undergo a very rigorous training.
Yes, I did.
Your mother made you go through that.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
I went through that agony, and thank God that she did insist. I was 12 when she caught hold of me, and she said, you have to learn music. And I was the youngest, siblings were all older. So she caught hold of me, and I started learning. At that time, you didn't say no to a parent. There was no question of saying no. So she said, you have to learn. I said, okay, you go to school, you come back, and you learn. So I got a classical music teacher who was a very well-known person. He was the father of Amanat Ali, Fateh Ali, our very famous classical singers. And he condescended to teach me. And for an ustad to teach classical music outside his family is very, very rare.
Yeah.
And then for a girl to learn, that is even more rare. So he started teaching me, and it was so boring and so awful. I can't even tell you. It was like repeating the alphabet over and over again, and you don't know what you are doing wrong, but you are doing something wrong. So you would just repeat again and again, and I am thinking I'm doing it right, and the ustad is saying, no, it's not right, you have to repeat it. Anyway, that lasted for 2 years, and then my mother thought I was good enough to appear on television, and I was 14, and I appeared on TV, and I was like a parrot who had learnt a lesson. I sat there in front of the camera, and I recited what I knew, and I came out not knowing what I had done. But it caused a sensation because I had a deep voice like my mother. And a lot of people next day said, oh, this girl is copying Mallika Pukhraj. Oh my God, this girl is copying Mallika Pukhraj. Until they found out, of course, that I was her daughter and I had no choice but to copy her.
Well said. That's true. And so folk was also a great element in your practice,
Yes,
and your mother's,
absolutely.
you know,
my
wide range of
mother, then
practice.
my mother took over and she started teaching me ghazal, pahadi,
Yeah.
and folk music. And I must say that her training me after the ustad was even worse. Because with him I could get away with a lot, with her I couldn't. And there were many days when we didn't speak because she was so angry with me. And then I'd make up with her and I'd just pick up the harmonium and take it and say, I submit, teach me. So that's how it happened, but I'm very fortunate that she passed on her legacy to me.
Yeah.
And I am what I am today because of that.
And the folk, our folk musical sort of streams have a lot of Sufi
Absolutely.
references and content,
Yes,
you know, whether in
yes.
Pahari or Punjabi.
I would say, Raza, in every subcontinent poetry, one can find elements of spirituality, because even a romantic poem can be attributed to your beloved, whoever it is, your master or God or whatever. And therefore it is very easy to sing spiritually even a romantic ghazal or a poem.
That's right. So I think we are not going to waste more time, and I think the audience would be really delighted if you sang, you know, and yes, so please. So maybe to keep up the sort of, you know, the context of our this panel, you can start with the kafi.
I surely will. And I would like to tell you that it was not his idea for me to sing, it was my idea. Because I told him that I have no knowledge and I have no idea about what we are going to talk about, so just let me sing because that is what I know.
So a kafi, and Lahore is also known for Shah Hussain, who was a great Sufi poet in the 16th century. And whose kafis still reverberate and have found way into popular music, into film music.
Oh
and
yes, I think he was a prolific kafi writer, and his kafis are as Bulle Shah's, as wonderful as his. Okay, I'm going to start with the Bulle Shah kafi. Ghungat chukko sajna. Ghungat chukko सजना शर्मा कानों रखियां वे शर्मा कानों रखियां शर्मा कानों रखियां वे शर्मा कानों रखियां वे दो नैना दा तीर चलाया मैं आशिक दे सीने लाया मैं आशिक दे सीने लाया घायल करके मुख छुपाया चोरियां किन दसियां वे चोरियां किन दसियां चोरियां किन दसियां वे चोरियां किन दसियां घूंघट चुको सजना शर्मा कानू रखियां वे शर्मा कानू रखियां.
Wow.
Thank you.
So briefly, this kafi means that come and, oh beloved, come and unveil me, and do not be shy, and it's time for you to look at me and get
Close to me.
Yes.
And you have annihilated me with your with the darts of your glances.
Yes.
And when I have succumbed to those glances, you have hidden your face from me.
Yes. Literally, yes.
Literally.
So maybe Shah Hussain, because of
Ji.
Lahore connection and.
साहिब तेरी बंदी हाँ चंगी हाँ के मंदी हाँ साहिब तेरी बंदी हाँ चंगी हाँ के मंदी हाँ साहिब तेरी बंदी हाँ अज दी गल नहीं रांझन यारा 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 मैं अज़लों तेरे नाल मंगी हाँ चंगी हाँ के मंदी हाँ साहिब तेरी बंदी हाँ चंगी हाँ के मंदी हाँ साहिब तेरी बंदी हाँ.
Yeah. So maybe you'd like to translate it because you translated better than I.
Everybody laughed when I translated it. You translated. You have a better expression.
I think so. This kafi basically is a very essential expression of Sufi idea that human beings as creators of divine expressions of the divine force have to be accepted the way they are, and so this song is addressing God or Master, saying, well, the way I am, just accept me, I am yours and you are mine.
Exactly.
And even if I'm good or bad. So this is in total contrast to organized religion and orthodoxy.
Absolutely.
Where you have to say you do X, Y, Z to become a good human being, otherwise you will be in hellfire. And Sufi says, well, no, just by being a human being and by expressing your humanity, you are good enough to be a creator's favorite. Is
and
that okay?
Sufi Islam, of course, propagates love as being a connection to God. And Orthodox Islam invites fear.
Yeah.
And that is the difference, basic difference, that everything about Sufi Islam is love.
Exactly.
And that's what it is.
So what is the next on the playlist?
Okay, and you wanted me to sing a Pahadi.
Yeah.
And
so just talk a bit about Pahadi as well.
Yes.
So what is it?
So Pahadi is actually folk music and folk songs that are written in Dogri language. Dogri apparently predates Punjabi. It's that ancient language. And my mother, because she lived in Jammu and she belonged to Jammu and was privy to a lot of the festivals and fairs that took place over there. And she heard a lot of these Pahadi songs and picked them up. Although it was not her language, she spoke Punjabi. But she fortunately had a great love for this music and collected a lot of them. And we recorded cassette at that time, me and my mother, both of us, Pahadi songs. So Pahadi songs mostly deal with the simple day-to-day matters of village life and Pahadi literally means mountain. So people who live in the mountains cannot grow much and they survive on very little. And most of their men go away to join the army or they go and work in the cities. And these are the women who live back home and look after their children. And this is a poem exactly like that. Ho pal pal bai jana ho pal pal bai jana ho jinde pal pal bai jana ho chhala pal pal bai jana ho हरिपुर नूरपुर ठंडियाँ ने छामा हरिपुर नूरपुर ठंडियाँ ने छामा ये बलोचेदा मोये बलोचेदा ठाणा ठाणा पल पल बै जाना हो जिंदे पल पल बै जाना हो ऊंची ऊंची टकियां सिरे बल पांदे असेगी नौकरी जाना जाना पल पल बै जाना हो
Wow. This was a hallmark of your singing.
Yes,
I remember,
it was.
we used to.
In fact, this was my very first song on television.
Right. And this Pahadi folk song also has very clear Sufi sort of content or
Yes.
connotations where you are trying to cross many a path and traverse very difficult days and times in the mountains to reach your beloved or wait for...
And life passes by moment to moment. Pal pal bai jana. Life will go by moment to moment.
So before we open up, I'll request you, as I told you earlier, that you could please sing some of your Faiz numbers.
Sure. Again, I recorded Faiz, this particular ghazal very early on, probably my second appearance on PTV at that time. And कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं, कब हाथ में तेरा हाथ नहीं. Of course, Azra will recite it. कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं, कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं, कब हाथ में तेरा हाथ नहीं, सद शुक्र के अपनी रातों में, सद शुक्र के अपनी रातों में, अब हिज्र की कोई रात नहीं, कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं. मुश्किल है अगर हालात वहाँ, दिल बेचाए जा दे आए. मुश्किल है अगर हालात वहाँ, दिल बेचाए जा दे आए. दिल वालों कूचाए जाना में, दिल वालों कूचाए जाना में, क्या ऐसे भी हालात नहीं, कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं। मैदाने वफा दरबार नहीं, या नाम नसब की पूछ कहाँ, मैदाने वफा दरबार नहीं, या नाम नसब की पूछ कहाँ, आशिक तो किसी का नाम नहीं, आशिक तो किसी का नाम नहीं, कुछ इश्क किसी की जात नहीं, कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं। गरबाजी इश्क की बाजी है, गरबाजी इश्क की बाजी है, जो चाहो लगा दो डर कैसा, गर जीत गए तो क्या कहना, गर जीत गए तो क्या कहना, हारे भी तो बाजी मात नहीं, कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं, कब हाथ में तेरा हाथ नहीं, सद शुक्र के अपनी रातों में अब हिज्र की कोई रात नहीं, कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं।
So we have a few minutes if someone wants to. Yes. Question.
Very interested in this idea that you said was the essential Sufi idea of accepting a person the way he is. I'm wondering, is there a role for jihad on the understanding of self-struggle or self-overcoming? If one were Hitler, to take an extreme example, or somebody more connected to New York City, take another example, is there not a role for trying to overcome what one is? And you could answer that either at the level of ideas, or do you feel it in your music, this idea of a role for overcoming the self?
A role for?
Overcoming the self, not just accepting the way one is, because it would depend on how one is.
Oh yes, nafs, or the sense of self, is something that has always been a subject for Sufi poetry, and the annihilation of self has been actually the base of Sufism, that you succumb to the Almighty and you transfer your entire desires and your life to the love of God. So as I said, love is the basis of all poetry. So yes, completely finishing your own self and your own desires and becoming one with the beloved. I don't know if that answers your question.
Not accepting yourself necessarily.
I don't know about that. There not much has been said.
Yeah, but accepting your flaws. The coffee that
The one that I sang, yes, that was I am yours, good or bad, whatever I am, I belong to you. So it's actually, I would say, a kind of modesty on the part of the Sufi saint who's writing that with all my flaws, I still am yours, which is what one says to the Almighty, that I am a being that you have created with all my flaws.
About jihad, I'll just add until the mic goes that, self-improvement and striving and overcoming the nafs or the ego or the sense of self, as Tyra said. I mean, that's the actual objective of jihad. I mean, the violent kind of jihad that the world knows is the least preferred kind of response to whatever.
Especially not in Sufi Islam.
Especially not, yes.
Thank you for the beautiful performance.
You're welcome.
How do you explain the resilience of Sufi Islam at a time of rising extremism? And I'm not talking specifically about Islam. I'm Indian American, and I see it in India. I see it in America. Hindu extremism and Hindu supremacy and white supremacy, and which erodes a certain culture of this kind of spirituality and mysticism and plurality of different faiths. And so from your experience in Pakistan, I mean, how has Sufi Islam sort of, how does it have this resilience? And perhaps there are lessons for, other places which are experiencing that rise in orthodoxy and extremism.
Absolutely. There has been a lot of backlash to Sufi Islam since we've had these occurrences and the Taliban and the orthodoxy that has come up. But there are huge amounts of people who go to these shrines. There are such devotees of these shrines and these Sufi saints. It is impossible to finish that. And there is a very marked percentage of people who do not believe in these, and they are very few. I would say maximum belief that exists in Lahore, at least, is very, very strongly connected to the Sufis. And the Sufis were always rebels. They rose against Orthodox Islam even in their time. I mean, Bulle Shah was ostracized and banished from the mosque because he was against all the mullahs. Yeah. And I think a certain percentage of us still rebel. The rebels are there. We rebel against the orthodoxy mullah. And that is probably the reason that people flock to these places in huge numbers. It's wonderful. It's a great thing that it still survives.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I wanted to ask that you mentioned that when you were younger, it was difficult even for you to sit through classical music and the classical training. So is there, if you could impart, I guess, if you could impart anything to younger people right now who are learning music, what would be, I guess, the biggest lesson that you would want to give them in order to, I guess, keep the art of classical music going in Pakistan?
I'm really not qualified to answer that really well, but what I can tell you what my mother used to say. She said that without classical music training as a base, you cannot even sing a film song well. And I think that has been true because look at Mehdi Hasan, look at Madam Noor Jahan, the greatest film singers and classical singers. Their base was always classical and they learned very rigorous training in classical music. So that, I think, is the essence, that you have to have a base of classical music or knowledge or practice. And that should be there, even if it's for a few months or 6 months or a year, but that should be there if you want to really sing everything and sing it well. I think we are done.
Yeah.
Can we request another song?
I see Rachel coming up to grab our mics. So, okay, I'll do that.
If so fast,
जी
अगर आप और गाने तो fast आप
फैस्ट मैंने आपको सुनाया है, मेरा ख्याल है अभी तो मैं जवान हूँ पे ख़त्म कर देती हूँ। फैज़ मैं आपको बाद में सुना दूंगी। अभी तो मैं जवान हूँ, 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 हवा भी खुश गवार है, गुलों पे भी निखार है, तरन्नुमे हजार है, बहार पुरबहार है। कहाँ चला है साकिया, इधर तो लौट इधर तो आ, अरे ये देखता है क्या, उठा सुबह सुबह उठा, सुबह उठा, प्याला भर के दे धर, चमन की सिमत कर नजर, समा तो देख बेखबर, वो काली काली बदलियां, वो काली काली बदलियां, उफक पे हो गई आया, वो एक हजूमे में कशा है, सुए में कदारवा, ये क्या गुमा है बदगुमा, समझना मुझको ना तवा, ख्याल जोहद भी कहाँ, अभी तो मैं जवान हूँ, अभी तो मैं जवान हूँ, अभी तो मैं जवान हूँ।
So before we end, I just want to make a small request. A few weeks ago, we've been talking about our Sufi heritage and our tolerant past and the lived Islam of people. And a few weeks ago, a young man by the name of Mashal Khan, 26 years old, a very bright free thinker, he was lynched by his fellow students and in Mardan, northwest of Pakistan. I would really like us to observe just a minute of silence before we end this session. Okay, well, that brings the session to end. Thank you so
very
much,
much.
Saira.
Not at all. My pleasure. Thank you so much.